Welcome to the Indie Author Method, where we share insights from authors for you on your writing journey. On the weekends, when you have more time and space in your day, we sit down with another author to discuss their processes and what they can share with you. As always, this episode is brought to you by Monk Manual. Monk Manual, at its core, is a 90-day productivity system, but it's much more than that. Monk Manual as a company is on a mission to fix modern productivity and help people live fuller lives. Inspired by the wisdom of monks and rooted in psychology, they design practical tools for peaceful being and purposeful doing. They were so gracious to partner with the Indie Author Method, and you can check out their products, including the 90-day planner that I personally use, at their website, monkmanual.com. Be sure to use promo code Andrew J. Brandt at checkout for 15% off your order. That's my name, all one word, Andrew J. Brandt at monkmanual.com, or just go to monkmanual.com/Andrew J. Brandt. Now on to the interview. Today I'm so excited to talk with Allison Spooner, who writes flash fiction, and her debut novel, The Lost Girl, a Neverland Story, releases this October. I'm admittedly a huge Peter Pan fan. I remember watching the movies and reading the stories as a young boy, and I personally can't wait to get my hands on this book. Allison, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I am excellent now. Thank you so much for having me. I love hearing that.
I'm excited about this book. I found you, I don't know, Instagram, TikTok, one of those things. I think I was just fishing for authors to have on this platform, and the idea for your story just really hooked me. So what inspired you to write The Lost Girl? How'd you come up with the idea?
Oh gosh, I have also always been a fan of Neverland. I unlocked a deep core memory the other day of the Mary Martin version of Peter Pan. I think my brother and I probably wore our VHS tape of that out watching that. And since then, I have always loved Hook. Something about Neverland, and I think the complexity of Neverland and what never growing up actually implies has always really fascinated me. It's not just the idea of never growing up. It's not just Peter can fly. Like, all those things are really fun when you're little. Yeah. And as you grow up, you learn, like, what does that really mean? And how does that actually affect us at a deeper level? And I love that about Neverland.
I think the complexities in that story are what really drew me in as a kid, of course, the fun parts of like pirates and getting to fly and all that stuff. But then as an adult, I watched Hook again not too long ago, just randomly, and it really broke my heart.
Yeah, so, I agree. Yeah. It gets me teared up every time. There's certain quotes that you're just like, that you don't relate to as a kid that you do as an adult.
Yeah. Like we were talking about, just the Peter Pan stories, the J.M. Barrie or the Hook movies, how those have influenced the story, of course. But who would you say are some of your biggest like literary influences? Like, how did you, when you said, I have stories to tell, I want to write, what kind of flavor do your books have, and who has impacted your writing style?
Yeah, I have thought long and hard about this question, because it comes up a lot. And I realized that I don't often stick to just one author over and over and over and over, but I think it's a genre more that has inspired me since I was younger. I started thinking about the country songs that were popular when I was younger, and that stuck with me as I got older. So songs like When the Thunder Rolls, Fancy, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, songs that tell big stories in just a couple of minutes, and songs that make you feel a lot. Like, it's just a song, right? You're just bopping along on the radio, but all of a sudden you're like crying, or you're like, oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps in just a couple of minutes. And when I think about what kind of inspired me to first write flash fiction and then just want to tell really emotionally complex stories, I think about those songs, actually. Instead of just one author or another. Obviously, books like Bridge to Terabithia, like you think of when you think of like big emotions. I'm honestly, have always been a huge Harry Potter fan, but those didn't come out until I'll age myself here, probably in high school.
Mhm.
They didn't get big. But obviously, the writing is amazing, and telling that complex of a story over that amount of time is just admirable. But I like to do it in short, short little bursts. Even
Yeah.
my novel, even The Lost Girl, isn't super long comparably to a
Mhm.
lot of other novels, but it's because I just really like to get to the matter
Yeah.
quickly, make you feel things quickly, like those songs did for me.
That answer perfectly question or dovetails right into my next question because I want to ask you about your writing process, going from flash fiction and then creating your debut novel. What's your writing process like, and did it change as you took on a much longer project?
Yes, and no.
Yeah.
Um, so my writing process has always so I talk about this a lot, and I have a brand called Creative Warrior, where I help authors, writers fight for their creativity, fight through writer's block. And I talk about this a lot kind of through that brand, that at one point I was really, really stuck, and I've always known I wanted to be a writer since I was a wee little thing. But at one point in my adult life, I just found myself stuck. I couldn't create. I couldn't figure out if there was a novel idea that was meant enough to me to stick with.
Mhm.
And then I discovered a few different things through like online contests and events in my area. I discovered deadlines, prompts, sprints, like really timed writing sprints and things like that. And so today my process always includes deadlines. Giving myself a deadline is really
Mhm.
important. Some sort of prompt, if that's just at the beginning, or throughout, even if I'm stuck, kind of writing throughout, looking at a picture, opening a book and picking a sentence, things like that to really get me going. And a community. Community is also a big part of my writing process. And those things have kind of stuck even as I started writing the novel. I would write in short sprints. I would give myself prompts, give myself deadlines. When I decided that I needed to publish this book, I gave myself a date. I'm self-publishing, obviously, so just picking a date is really important
Yeah.
to me. Having those deadlines and all of those elements together really, really help me create, even when I don't
Yeah.
feel like it or
Yeah.
want to.
Talking about writing sprints? I mean, do you write for time? Do you write for word count?
Time
Okay.
more often than word count.
Sure.
Um, just because I feel like if you're writing for word count, you're going to try to fill in words just for the sake of filling in words. At least for me.
Okay.
And since I write flash, word count, getting to a certain word count isn't as important as saying it in fewer words. So,
Yeah.
time, I think, is a bigger deal for me, because then I know, okay, as soon as this timer goes off, I can stop and take a break,
Gotcha.
and I don't have to pay attention. I can just write until I hear that ding.
Yeah. So aside from like the writing sprints and the timing, do you have any like specific, like particular rituals? I mean, or any habits that you follow?
I like to write, and I would say this as kind of advice if, people were looking for it for process, write in the morning. I have a full-time job. We all, have obligations and things that come up throughout the day. Write your thing first.
Yeah.
Let yourself do what's important to you before the rest of the world gets your
Yeah.
attention, right?
Attack the day. Yeah. Marcus Aurelius talks about that in Meditations.
Yeah, so that's kind of my, if anything, like, yeah, I'll write at night too if I have a little time
Mhm.
before bed, but most likely I'm probably beat or other things are demanding my attention at that point. But when I'm into it, in, knee deep, pits deep, whatever it is in the writing process, I like to write in the morning and get as
Yeah.
much writing done in the morning as I can.
Yeah. No, I'm 6 a.m. coffee, ready to go. Marcus Aurelius, like I mentioned him just a bit ago, but he talks about talking to himself. He's arguing with himself in his journal. He's saying like, it's warm under the covers. It's warm in here. It's like, but were you meant to be warm? Is that what you were meant to do? No, like you were meant to get up. You were meant to live, to do the work as a human being. And I love that he says, you were born for this. And there are days when it is a struggle crawling out of bed, but then remember that even the Emperor of Rome had to remind himself, you were born for this.
I will have to remember that, because as much as I like to write in the morning, I'm not always great about it, but I will have to.
Well, listen, a few more questions. What is your message or your takeaway that you hope readers get from The Lost Girl?
Oh gosh. I think that I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give anything away. That fighting doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. That being strong and fighting for what you want or what you feel or what you believe doesn't always look like sword fights or, cannons. There are hand-to-hand combat. It doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. There is some of that. It's Neverland. Yeah. There are pirates. There are sword fights. But it's a different type of Neverland. It's a Neverland where the main character is a 13-year-old girl. So there's a lot of feelings rather than fighting. And so she's learning a lot. And I think that's something she's learning, is that fighting doesn't look like what we think it looks like.
I'm looking forward to it. There's your book. There's a couple of books that, like, October is like, come on now.
It's a good
month. To it. Yeah.
My birthday month, so I like to pick that month
fantastic.
As release date month too.
Yeah. Allison, where can our viewers, our subscribers find you and learn more about the creative warrior?
On YouTube as Creative Warrior. Okay. We'll put the link wherever we put links in the show notes, the description. Yes. You can put that, just because YouTube's weird, and sometimes just searching Creative Warrior doesn't always find me, but
sure.
Warrior on YouTube, Creative Warrior on Instagram, Creative Warrior on Facebook. I'm everywhere, frankly.
Sure. So I'll tell you what, subscribers, if you're watching, podcast listeners, if you're listening, the link to the Creative Warrior will be in the show notes here. Allison, do you have a website, anything like that, or social media? Where do we find you?
Social media is probably best. My websites are always in flux, and I will probably be releasing a specific landing page for The Lost Girl soon. Cool. So social media is probably the best way to look out for those. And through social media, you'll be able to find my mailing list, my newsletter mailing list.
Sure.
As well.
And your Instagram or TikTok handle, where can we find you?
If you want to find my author stuff, I'm author Allison Spooner on all the things. If you want to find Creative Warrior, it's generally Creative Warrior Club.
Fantastic. Allison, one more question before I let you go. It's always this. It's going to happen to you. You're going to have The Lost Girl. You're going to be at a book conference or a library or a book signing somewhere, and a 13-year-old girl is going to come up to you with a well-worn copy. And she's going to say, "This is my favorite book of all time. And I have stories that I want to write. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give me?" So Allison Spooner, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring author?
Oh, I love how you phrase that too, because not just to aspiring authors, but to specifically that 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Write the story that you want to write. We all know we want to write. Writers always know we want to write. We always know that. We know it from the very beginning. But sometimes we feel like we have to tell certain stories because it's what's popular or it's what's going to sell, or there's always going to be trends. They're always going to be changing. There's always going to be Twilights and Harry Potters that are coming and going. So if you just tell the story that you want to tell because you want to read it, chances are somebody else is going to want to read it too. And it's going to resonate with someone. If it makes you feel something, it's going to make someone else feel something too. So.
Wow. Allison, thank you so much. Looking forward to The Lost Girl this October. And we will get to celebrate the release with you just in a few months.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You take care.
You too.